Okay, well, thank you. I am delighted today to be joined by Michael Akavan, a father of a 2-month-old beautiful Summer. She is beautiful and she's very advanced for two. And she is in pink today. She is in pink today, which is appropriate. I have my pink ribbon and pink shirt because today is the big march against breast cancer. It's Fight Breast Cancer Month. And I was just out on Long Island at Jones Beach, which is the biggest breast cancer march in the country. And there must have been over 30,000 people there marching of every background, race, creed, color, many survivors. My wife's a survivor. So it matters a whole lot to all of us. But today we're to talk about a much younger group of people, and that is our babies. There's some real anxiety about baby food. A recent report by a very credible group called Healthy Babies, Bright Futures detailed findings on baby food ingredients that parents had been demanding answers to. This is the report. It says, "What's in my baby's food?" Right here. Okay, sure, I'll hold it up by Summer. You can hold it. What's in my baby's food? Okay? And the report is very, very troubling. It shows that there are all kinds of toxic metals in baby food. Now, we all know how bad lead can hurt a toddler, but when it's a young baby, it's even worse. And things like arsenic and lead and many other bad metals are in these baby foods. They found in their report that 95% of the 168 baby foods that tested had arsenic, lead, mercury, or cadmium. Every one of them harmful to tiny little beauties like Summers. And we have to stop that right now. And yet, even though the FDA has been asked to test baby foods for these toxic metals, they've sat on their hands. Bottom line is, they established a toxic elements working group in 2017 to modernize state safety standards for toxic metals for babies. No new standards have been introduced. Why? Well, this administration, we know, is against regulation. Well, there are some regulations that are onerous, but there are some regulations that save babies' lives. And when these toxic metals get into a baby's nervous system, it can retard brain development, nerve development, the very kinds of things we've seen with lead, which is older when kids gnaw on their windowsills in their apartments, can happen with babies who just start eating baby food. Like these little twins over here. What are their names? Michael and Philo and Paxton, with their beautiful little toys. They're a little older than Summers, but I am known for making what we call in Brooklyn shidduchs, matches. And maybe we can get Summers with either Paxton or Philo. Philo? Milo, right, okay. So that's what's happening here. Now, parents across the land should be worried about teaching their children ABCs, not worried about what's in their baby's food. But now they have to worry because we're sitting on our hands. You know, science has progressed. 50 years ago, we wouldn't even be able to measure these toxic metals, let alone know their negative effect on tiny babies and on infants. Now we know their effect, and the outrage is the government, the FDA, is sitting on its hands. So today I'm demanding that the FDA do a study, a comprehensive study of toxic metals in baby foods, and then take action, which they have the authority to do, to stop it. That's the bottom line. When you find 95% of baby foods have one of these four metals, it really makes you worry. The stuff like this, delicious as it looks, is supposed to be as safe as it gets, not toxic. When you look at this stuff, you say, oh, this looks nice, harmless, healthy. But no, it's toxic, or it could be. Yeah, we'll hold it here so we can not block off beautiful Summers. What a beauty. I hope I have a second grandchild soon. I have a 10-month-old grandchild, so I personally worry about this. His name is Noah, and he puts everything in his mouth, including the table. Okay. Today, so we're calling on the FDA to act ASAP. They should investigate this new report and finally get a move on something they said they'd do 2.5 years ago, which is study the toxicity of metals in baby food and take preventative action. You know, our parents of little babies are very meticulous. Why can't the FDA be just as meticulous? I'm sure Jeff, Michael, and the parents of Milo and Paxton are very careful about their children. Why can't the FDA be as careful? Okay, let's see what else we got here. Here's what we're asking the FDA to do. 4 things. 4. 1, establish and finalize health protective standards for heavy metals to protect against neurodevelopmental impacts in babies and infants. 2, to develop a proactive testing program in foods consumed by babies and toddlers. 3, to act immediately to establish a health-based limit for arsenic in infant foods. They're still supposed to be working on that. They've been sitting on their hands. And 4, to investigate the report that was put out that's called What's in My Baby Food by Healthy Babies, the Healthy Babies Bright Futures organization, and see if they agree with it or not. This is a very fine organization. They're not screamers. They're not known as somebody, you know, they're very careful. So when they say something like this and they see such a high percentage, you gotta worry. I think that's all I have to say. Let's see. Here's what they do. Arsenic especially targets the developing brain. Lead, even low exposures, causes attention deficits, behavior problems, and academic achievement. I know they've just lowered, not for food, but the amount of lead that should be in the bloodstream to a much lower level of any child. Cadmium is a heavy metal linked to neurotoxicity and cancer, kidney, bone, and heart damage, and mercury increases the risk for cardiovascular disease. So this is really serious. It's not fun. This is not a laughing matter. We love our kids. My wife and I babysat for our grandson last night for the first time, and he went to bed and didn't cry, even though his parents were at a wedding. And we know what parents and grandparents even care so much for their children. This can't be this way. Can't be this way. Look at this beautiful child. You want her to grow up healthy and happy for the sake of herself, her parents, and for our country. You want to say something? Go ahead, Michael.
It's definitely something the FDA should look into, and they should be establishing standards for something like this, because it's scary to read that things like rice and sweet potatoes might have toxins in them, and that's not something I don't think I ever knew about before.
Yeah, in the baby foods. Yep, there you go.
It's like basic things like rice and sweet potatoes that are described in this report have these toxins in them. It's very scary. I don't think I ever knew that. And rice is I have a son who's 2.5, and that's things that we've given him: rice and sweet potatoes, among other things. And it's scary to think that could affect development. It's Akavan, AKAVAN.
All A's. Okay, questions on this subject first. And thank you, Milo and Paxton, for being here. No, what we have seen through many of these regulatory agencies that help consumers, under this administration, big industry calls the shots, and big industry never likes these studies. Nope, we're sticking to this topic first. Okay, that's all right.
Another related issue is with pharmaceuticals and the fact that
Baby powder.
90% of the active ingredients made in generic drugs, which account for 80% of the drugs everybody takes, are made overseas.
Right. Well, one of the things, Yes, of course. When we import stuff from a place like China, their safety standards are much less than ours. Now, I don't know if these baby foods are made in China. It's one of the things we have to look at, or overseas. The overseas countries have many lower standards than us, and when they import them, there are no standards whatsoever. So we should certainly look into it.
Has your office gotten any response?
The FDA doesn't answer these days. They don't even have a director at this point. The other director left. There was some view that he left because they wouldn't let him do what he wanted. We don't know if that's true, but there are rumors to that effect. But we haven't heard a thing from them.
What can parents do today?
Well, they should just be careful. I mean, these are small amounts, but you could look at this report and find out which foods have them and make sure you avoid those. By the way, the testing was nationwide, but New York was included in the testing. Why? Oh, this place. I have nothing against it, but they have some of the baby foods mentioned in this study. Wait, he goes first and then you.
BHT is banned in most European.
Thank you. Pardon, BHT what?
BHT is banned in most European it's allowed.
I can't tell. I don't know enough about it to say anything. Yes.
Senator, would you be able to name any of the companies that have baby?
It's in our release, some of them, I think.
Is there any?
Just read we'll get you, we click the report, they name all the ones they found.
Are there numbers or stats on how many children have gotten sick from this?
No, we don't know. These things you may not find out for 2 years, 3 years until they're older. We're just finding out about the toxic metals now. We will see the results of this in the future, unfortunately, if we do nothing about it in particular.
Parents,
Wait, he goes and then you.
is there a way for New York to increase regulations on its own, or is this
This has to be national. These products are made and cross interstate lines.
have parents been calling and saying, listen, I take reports, but
The report just came out, and now parents are worried about it, such as Michael.
Senator, it's been well documented that staffing is not what it should be at the FDA, especially for inspectors. Is that something?
Yes. Look, most of these regulatory agencies, and what could be more important than the food and drugs we take, have been sliced back. Mulvaney, who's been in the news lately, has been one of the biggest slicers, and they can't do the job they should be doing. Again, this administration, and Mulvaney in particular, the head of OMB, wants to cut all regulation. Well, there are some regulations that are onerous, but there are many that protect us and have been there through the years. The FDA was established when quack medicines were killing people, 100 years ago. Okay.
When you acknowledge these problems precede the current administration by years and decades.
Well, look, right now it's worse than it's ever been. Okay, other subjects?
Senator,
What?
what statement of reversal on
I couldn't hear what you said.
G7.
Wait, let the fire truck,
Thank you.
ambulance, or whatever. Go ahead.
Senator, what do you make of the president's abrupt reversal on G7?
Look, he never should have proposed Doral to begin with, and he ought to be focusing, instead of on what country club or place the G7 meets, at curbing ISIS. We in New York know the danger that a small group of evil terrorists can do, even if they're 7,000 miles away. And now there are thousands of ISIS prisoners who are no longer being guarded carefully by the Kurds. To say that the Turks and Syrians will guard them is awful, because the Turks and Syrians don't have the same negative views of ISIS that we do. The president ought to be focusing not on sending a G7 to his hotel, but on what we're going to do about ISIS. When we met with the president, it was clear he had no real plan.
Senator, again, I'm sorry, just one more question. Again, like you mentioned, we have seen cracks in the Republican congressional support for the president on Syria, G7, even Mulvaney. But why do you think we haven't seen more of a reaction from the GOP following the president's impeachment?
Well, listen, I just have told all of the senators, Democrat and Republican, that we should get all the facts out and then come to a judgment. And I'm hopeful that our colleagues on the other side of the aisle will do that. So far, we haven't seen it, but the facts are continuing to come out, and they all ought to come out.
Going back to Syria, the U.S.
You want to go?
The U.S. troops are moving from Syria. They were supposed to move in one direction. Now they're supposed to move to Iraq. What do you make of all of this?
It was clear to me from our meeting at the White House Wednesday that first the military are extremely upset with what the president did. We heard a little bit about that from General Mattis at the Al Smith dinner, and I talked to him at great length about it. But that second, we don't have a real plan. This was done on a whim and done precipitously, and it's damaging. Okay?
Wait, you want to do the thing for Channel 7 on cancer?
I did it at the beginning.
Okay.
On Channel 7, Channel 7, I was out at Jones Beach, walked with the breast cancer victims, this was the largest breast cancer walk in the country, raising millions of dollars to fight breast cancer. As somebody who believes in it and who has a survivor in his family, I care a lot about it, and I am so glad that this walk was so well attended. Yeah, let's give someone else a chance, please.
Let me ask you about the meeting at the White House. What was it like?
The what?
The meeting at the White
Yeah,
House.
I've said all I'm going to say about that. I'm not going to get into it any longer. Okay? Now, anyone else? Yes. Citizen question. Hi, you're a citizen. What's your first name?
James.
Citizen James.
What do you think of Hillary Clinton accusing Tulsi Gabbard of being a Russian asset? Even though
Yeah, I have not studied that, and I'm not going to comment on it.
In Mexico, the release of Chapo's son.
Yeah, I'm not enough familiar with that to comment on it. Okay? Thank you, everybody. Have a nice day. Go Giants. And we Yankee fans will wait till next year. I always have sports commentary for those of you who regularly come. Thank you. Thank you. She's a beauty.